Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time, thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Marc Cameron.
Well, welcome to New Life Live. I am Marc Cameron, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and a special welcome today to our new listeners on WUMY in Memphis. Their first time being broadcast on our station there, so welcome to you. And we are going to be taking calls for the next 2 hours, 1-800-229-3000. And by we, I mean myself and Dr. Jill Hubbard, who is a licensed psychologist, author, and speaker, and Dr. Jim Burns, who is also an author and speaker and the president of Homeward, which provides resources for churches and parenting.
Absolutely. Great to be with you, too. It's going to be a great day.
Yes. And Jim, I think you have something to share with us this morning. What's on your mind?
I actually wanted to practice my British accent.
Okay.
But I can't do it.
We'll do it together.
I swoon when, as you talk through that. But anyway, one of the things I was thinking about, Mark, was that so many of our listeners call and struggle with kids who have addiction to alcohol or drugs. Mm-hmm. And, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about that. First of all, a lot of us as parents go into denial or sometimes are just ignorant with the fact that, today the drug of choice, has changed. And let's take, for example, marijuana. Marijuana that years ago, was still a drug, but today it's about 5 to 20% stronger. And I think parents have to be aware of that sometimes it's laced with someone else. And one of the reasons I say that is because I have a very heavy heart. A woman friend of ours who's 19 had never smoked marijuana, and then about a week and a half ago, she tried it for the first time, and it did something to her brain. That meant something else was laced with it. Mm-hmm. And today she's struggling. She's struggling mentally. And I think parents have to understand, again, that the drugs maybe that they even used, if they did, is a problem for some of this. And so as parents, I think we have to become students of the culture and understanding that. Let's take, for example, another drug. It's called nicotine. We don't think of nicotine as a drug, but it is. And it actually takes your neurotransmitters and puts them back together, just like maybe a drug would if you had anxiety. But the interesting side to it is kids, they'll see the statistics. Parents will say, oh, great, parent, they're not smoking, but they're vaping. So parents will say, well, great, vaping is a lot better than smoking because they don't have that smelly breath and on and on. But the fact is that there are issues just like you would with cigarettes, and parents just have to become aware of that. And then one last thing, they go through what we call gateway drugs. And gateway drugs, you start with beer and wine. When I was a kid, it was age 14. Today it's age 12 and a half when kids take their first drink. And, 85% of even Christian kids are going to have a drink when they're in high school. But it's the gateway to the next, which would be nicotine, or then it moves on to harder alcohol and marijuana, and then it moves to the tough stuff. Cocaine, heroin, meth, so many of the other things. And as parents, we need to understand a couple of things about that. For example, I come from a family where there's alcoholism, and there is a biological predisposition toward alcoholism. I mean, that's just clinically proven. So it's important for parents to understand that if they have alcoholism in their system, like we do, Kathy and I do, then their kids will too. And if they have a high tolerance toward alcohol or drugs, then it's quite possible they can become an addict quicker. There you go.
Such great wisdom here, Jim. And of course, kids are using this, adults are using these substances to distract and to numb. And so it's so important to be able to engage your kids in conversation, check in on them. Yep. Your voice is important, even if you think that it's not. Right. It is significant. And so if you have a relationship problem, if you have a life challenge, call us. You can be with us on the air today, 1-800-229-3000. We're going to be taking calls for the next 2 hours. Myself, Dr. Jim Burns, Dr. Jill Hubbard, looking forward to talking to you.
My husband was involved with pornography addiction.
He was unfaithful. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Intensive is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
There were strip clubs. My husband is a recovering sex addict.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or a physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Intensive will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Dallas, Texas, July 12th through the 14th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
1-800-NEWLIFE and the discount code NLL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with a New Life Moment. We would all agree that our society is somewhat troubled, right? And if that's the case, then adopting the values and priorities of such a society would make us, by virtue of definition, troubled as well, right? Then why do we give in to the pressure to conform? Few things in life come easier than giving in to the pressure of conformity. And even fewer things are more dangerous. Resistance requires vigilance and vigor. But more important still, the knowledge that God blesses those who do. Listen to this lovely and profound meditation by Kierkegaard, a Christian who knew well what it meant to swim against the stream. I shall never know the security which consists in being like others. No, I remain in unlikeness. There I remain with thee, and I recognize the blessedness of it. Need help swimming against the stream? Well, please visit me, Steve Arterburn, at newlife.com, and thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
Well, I love that we still get to listen to Steve's wisdom here. And I love that the resistance and the resilience. And I like to say that good relationships happen on purpose. They don't happen by accident. And it's the same thing with living the Christian life. It happens on purpose. We have to be intentional. And to do that, you need resources. You need help. And if you need help, we have a lot of resources and we have help that we can give you. And we are going to help Deborah right now. Deborah's calling from Dallas, Texas. She listens to us on the internet. Deborah, how are you doing today? How can we help you?
Yes, hi.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I've been the way I was brought up has affected me every day of my life since I was a child. My mother was into weird things. She would let evil spirits come into her, really weird things, and that a child should not be exposed to. And it has bothered me. Not only was that weird thing that she did, but she was very controlling. I had to be her caregiver because she was always sick. So when my father left, I was the man of the house, and I was her caregiver my whole life. So I had this inner anger. Like I'm a good person. I'm a hard worker, and I'm always good at my where I work and stuff. But deep inside, I have really a bad anger because I didn't have a normal life, and I couldn't have a normal life because they were always controlling me with abusive, negative things always said to me. You're never going to amount to anything, or you can't do that, and then plus this everything was a demon. There was always demons around the house. So I mean, I feel like I'm, by the grace of God, I'm okay. I can talk about it. My sister, she's been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and she goes back and forth from being happy to being angry, from being happy to being angry, to loving you, from loving you to hating you. And she is all by herself, and she was married, and now her husband's in the hospital. And I feel like I'm stuck having to take care of her, but it's not a life. It's complete insanity. I didn't have a normal life. I was engaged to be married to a great guy. My father came back into our lives when we were in our early 20s, completely controlled our lives. No, you don't want to do that. Oh, you don't. What are you studying? School? You don't want to go to school, and just really controlling. It was just a control thing.
Yeah.
They had to manipulate everything because they're sick people. They're two sickos.
It sounds like that was a really tough upbringing, Deborah, and it sounds like you have stepped into that role that your parents assigned, that your mom assigned you as a kid to be the man of the house, and now you're here in adulthood taking care of your sister. What's your question for us today?
The only question I can think of is, what do you think of that? What do you think about that kind of upbringing? And does somebody's childhood really affect them their whole life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Jill, what do you think?
Well, Deborah, thank you for sharing all of that, and I'm so sorry what you have lived for. And I agree with Mark. You had a mom that sounds like she was mentally ill, and now you're caregiving a sister also in that spot. So it's a repetition for you, for sure. I mean, number one, do our childhoods affect us? Yes, they really do. But to the degree that we are aware of that, we can change the course of things. So to the degree that we get some help and work through the impact, because we keep repeating things when we stay unaware. When we say, oh, my childhood didn't affect me, and we don't look at the impact of it. But how could it not during your formative years to have a mom like that, right? So there's things that you did to survive. And a lot of times the defenses that we build up, because we come into the world defenseless, and then as we go along, we build up some defenses to our environment. But a lot of times the things that we have erected to help us survive later in life really don't serve us well. They're kind of archaic relics, and we keep using the same ones. So it's really important to have somebody outside of your family, to have an objective person like a therapist, help you sort through and to look at how might your childhood be impacting you in the present today. Because so that you can then start to differentiate, oh, that was from a long time ago. Oh, I don't need that anymore. I'm an adult now. Back when you were a child, okay, you were a parentified parent here, adult in the house. That was way more than you could handle as a kid, right? Where were the big people that were supposed to take care of you? They were either tyrants, right, or incapable. So that's very confusing. Yes. So part of it, too, is to be able to grieve that. We can't go back and redo your childhood, but you have to grieve what was lost, that these were the difficulties in your life. And you don't have to live under that oppression anymore, right? So it's now the parents that you internalize, the parents that are in your head. We've got to replace those voices, and you've got to recognize those. Oh, that's an old voice. That's my parents' voice. Right. And you as an adult can choose to do things differently and make healthier choices.
Yeah. That's good. What about you, Jim?
I think we need to record that answer of Jill's. It was really good.
It was comprehensive.
Deborah, I'm going to come at it from a little bit different angle because what she said is exactly right. The Bible says something really interesting. The Bible says throughout the Old Testament, the Bible says that you inherit the sins of a previous generation to the third and fourth generation. And so whether we like it or not as children, we do. I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast that I inherited alcoholism. I'm not an alcoholic, but I don't drink. That's why. And so, has it affected? Of course it has. But the next sentence in that scripture says, but the love of God lasts 1,000 generations. My wife and I both came from dysfunctional families, not to the extent that you have. But we made a decision a month or a year into our marriage that we would either recover or repeat. And we chose to recover. And it's been one of the hardest things we've ever done and one of the best things we've ever done. And so it sounds to me like you're really willing to lean in and not repeat. But to do that, you've got to do what Jill was saying, because there's voices in your head. This is my mom voice. This is my dad voice, whatever. And I think part of the way you replace that, not only by saying, look, I'm going to recover, but you also bring people around you who are speaking truth and love to you. And I think you find that in the church. And I think, as Jill said, you find that with a good therapist who can kind of help you walk through that. Sometimes you almost have to say, okay, either I'm acting a little crazy and they're normal, or I'm normal and they're crazy. Where your family, they were in a mess. And so you've got to be able to identify that. And that's the beauty of going to get help, but also those replenishing relationships, deep friendships that you find within a small group at church, or just by hearing, great messages at church, and, things like that. And I think you're on your way, because again, you got a raw deal, so to speak, and now it's up to you to not repeat, but to recover.
So, yes. Go ahead, Deborah.
I'm sorry. Well, I've been going through. I went through therapy, different therapists throughout my life. I haven't in a while, but I've gone through Bible studies where we sit together. But I've never ever admitted what I had gone through. I've always hidden it. I've always kept it. I've always protected my mother. I always. That's the way I got to keep it a secret. It's a big secret from the time I was little. Until we're in our 20s, and then comes my father. When we're in our 20s, we're all vulnerable. He's like, "Well, this is what you should do with your life. Just get a job." It was utterly like sickening when I think about it. But now, like, I've been through a lot of Bible studies. My sister got married to a man who is. They said that she's schizophrenic, and I never wanted to admit it. I never believed it. But the way I see it now that I'm older, she loves me. She hates me. She's happy. She's angry. She's very angry. She's very happy. She hates me. She loves me. But she's never gone through Bible study. She's always been taking care of her husband because he's a little bit mentally challenged. Really good man, but it's kind of like special needs. They're both special needs. So she's been taking care of him, and she's never gone through Bible study. She's never gone through what I've gone through for therapy. She thinks that she doesn't trust anybody. She thinks that everybody has a demon. The devil is using everybody against
So,
her.
Deborah, and part of her treatment is to get in with a good psychiatrist and be on medication. Excuse me. Because with schizophrenia, that's what they need to then be able to live a more normal life, because you're seeing these extremes. You never know who you're going to get each time. Yeah. And I would really encourage you to kind of look at the role you play. And do they have other supports? Can you maybe not be the main caregiver here? And take a season. I would encourage you to go back to therapy and share all of this. Right. Another option, and continue, it's not just one thing that's going to fix everything. So to do therapy, to continue to do Bible studies and support groups. Also, there's a 12-step group, Adult Children of Alcoholics, that is really good for childhood wounds. It really should be adult children of dysfunctional families. So I think that would be a really good group for you to try for a while. And that's free. So that's something that just requires showing up.
That's with New Life?
No, that one is not with New Life. But we do have life recovery groups that could offer something very similar.
Exactly. And I like what you're saying here, Jill. I wonder for you here, Deborah, if, part of you stepping back is also a handoff. And so maybe you can even go to a group with your sister, invite her to come with you, because you're saying that she's suspicious here. And so you being that constant for her to be there for a while until she builds that network, that trust with those folks, and then you can step back. But you know what? You may actually get something out of the life recovery group too, because you shared that you have kept a lot of this stuff to yourself. Now, just to kind of piggyback on what Jill was saying here about how your childhood affects your adulthood, right? What you engaged in, those were adaptive strategies as a kid, because you had less power and you had less responsibility. And now you're in adulthood, you have greater power and greater responsibility, and those strategies are no longer adaptive. But you know what we find from attachment research is it's not the extent to what has happened to you that dictates whether you can recover or not. It's how you make sense of what happened to you, how you make sense of your childhood. And I hear that you have done a lot of that work already, and you're building that story. But I think going to a group and sharing and being vulnerable, lots of times we can get greater feedback from being in a group, because others who do life with us, they see into our blind spots and they can speak to that. But yeah, I think you're doing a fantastic job here with your sister and calling in to get help. I think we're going to send you Take Your Life Back.
Can we send her my book, Forgiving Our Fathers and Mothers?
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
no, that's really good.
Great. Hey, Deborah, I was also going to say, with schizophrenia, when your sister is the sister that you know and love, and there will be those moments, that's when you have the conversation about going to that psychiatrist and getting some help, because there's really good medication that somebody can be on that can actually help greatly. They will not
change her life.
Exactly, and it won't be as accepted if they're in the bad place. That's when we tend to say, hey, do this, but wait for that moment. And then suggest that's what she do. Yeah.
You're in a good mood.
Thanks for calling in here, Deborah. Another resource for you and others who are listening who may have similar struggles like Deborah is our Emotional Freedom Workshop. The next time we have that is going to be online, so it's super easy to access. You don't have to travel anywhere. It's going to be September 28th. And we're here for the rest of the hour here and beyond. 1-800-229-3000. You can be part of the show. Call in if you've got a relationship problem or a life challenge. We're here to help.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hid with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I would up getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career or possibly strengthening your relationships or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been screened and certified with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps towards your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Well, welcome back. This is New Life Live. I'm Marc Cameron, and I am here with Dr. Jill Hubbard and Dr. Jim Burns, and we are taking your questions. And we are going to be taking a next question here from Jen, who is in Washington, D.C. She listens on our YouTube channel. We love our YouTube listeners. That's a great way to listen to us and also to see us. You can see us live in the studio that way. Jean, how can we help you today?
Hello. Thank
Hi.
you for taking my call.
Sure.
And thank you for helping the caller before me. You guys are so essential to my sobriety and serenity.
Oh.
Okay. I have a problem with my relationship with other people when it's Gay Pride Month, because and I've been praying about this, and I was studying last night trying to get a way to reconcile my feelings, versus what's happening all around me with children. There's a concerted effort, even in my own neighborhood, in my hometown, to have these book readings by the the men that dress up like women, you know, and they want the little kids to come. It's for little kids, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds. And I'm just, you know, I'm okay one-on-one. I go to AA meetings, 12-step meetings. We accept everybody, no questions, no problems. My best friend happens to be practicing the alternative lifestyle. But we get along good because we're both introverts and we don't bug each other about stuff. So I was looking in Proverbs. I was trying to seek wisdom. And you know, it says to keep the principles, keep the statutes, respect God, have discernment, guard your heart, avoid evil. And then I was looking at Matthew 5, you know, blessed are the people that mourn. And a pastor gave a sermon about that phrase, and he says the mourn is grieving for sin, grieving about the sin condition, not just when, you know, my favorite aunt dies. It said to be meek and merciful, be light, turn the other cheek, pray for your persecutors, love your enemies, forgive, and be a peacemaker. And I know the month will pass. Every year it comes and then it goes. I just have such a hard time with it because it's in my face. Where I live is in my face.
Well,
it's in the public square.
I love your heart here, Jean. What's your question for us today that Jim and Jill and myself can answer?
Well, how do I reconcile? You know, I grew up here, and instead of having a strawberry festival in June, we're having a coming out party for the teenagers. You know.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think a lot of people probably have that question and similar thoughts. Jim, what would you say to Jean?
Well, Jean, I think you're going to the right place because you're going to the scriptures. Proverbs gives great wisdom. You know, I love that scripture, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. And I actually think that a lot of times people who are missing the mark, I mean, the word sin just simply means to miss the mark. They didn't guard their heart, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. Your mourning for them and for mourning for what's going on in our culture is a good thing because it's a way for you to actually express to God and maybe to some others, hopefully others also who are safe for you, you know, to do that. And at the same time, I really appreciate that you have a friend who's gay. Okay. Now I'm one who believes just like you do that what the Bible says, but I think we as Christians have to refigure how we deal with these people. And I think we lead with love. That's the way of Jesus. I think we practice kindness. That's the way of Jesus. Jesus oftentimes saw people who were in sin, and he didn't agree with them, but he also showed them love. And we're not going to get anybody to be excited about Christianity if we're just, you know, only putting them down. And so I like your attitude with that friend. You know, the other thing is Jesus also spoke that we're created in the image of God. So what you're thinking is good. Sometimes you just need to call us and let us say, no, you're thinking right and good. And of course it's going to be tough. I literally had this conversation with my wife this morning because it's all over, you know, her face too. And she goes, how do I deal with this? I'm just so, I want to be loving, and yet I'm just so frustrated. I'm kind of angry because she'd seen something where they were saying we're coming after your children, and we love kids, of course. So you know, I think what we have to do is find safe places to have this conversation with, and then be the people who literally, in the midst of all that's going on, we still lead with love and we still practice kindness. Why? Because that's what Jesus did, and He's going to have to give us the strength to do it. Typically, we can't do it alone, so you bring people around you, and that's my thought on it. And it's really hard. I have more thoughts, but I could go on all day on this one.
Well, we're kind of coming up to a break here, Jean, and after the break, we're going to hear from Jill's thoughts on this. But yes, if you want to call us, we are here for you, 1-800 229-3000. We have many resources. Our next intensive that we have coming up is the Every Man's Battle Intensive. It's going to be right here in California, Orange County, where we record the show. It's going to be on June 28th. And so if you are a man who struggles with pornography addiction, or if you are a wife and your husband struggles with pornography addiction, oftentimes the wife is the first call, and that gets the husband to come, and then we see transformed lives and transformed marriages.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Well, welcome back to New Life Live. And I just wanted to say a special thank you to everyone who contributed to our matching gift challenge, which ended May 31st. And I want to let everyone know the full amount was met in the final day. So thank you to everybody who did that. You are helping us at New Life connect hurting people with hope. Your gifts and your generosity help to scholarship people to get to our intensive events when they can't pay the full cost. And, you know, as I mentioned, the Every Man's Battle coming up, we also have a new episode of Every Man's Battle podcast that was released today with J.J. West and Doug Bonds. It's on facing temptation in long-term recovery. Now, J.J. West and Doug Bonds, they're experts on this. They're both licensed marriage and family therapists. And so you can find this podcast where you get your podcast, or you can connect to it at newlife.com. Right now, we're talking with Jean. Jean's in Washington, D.C., listens on YouTube. And she called in. She's struggling because it's Gay Pride Month. And she's just having a difficult time with messages, I think, being in her face, and just struggling with the discrepancy between her faith and the culture. And Jim, you gave us some great wisdom here. Jill, what would you say to Jean?
Well, Jean, thank you for your call. I think a lot of people feel what you're feeling, but don't always voice it. And you had said something that you don't know how to reconcile this. And my thought was that I don't think you reconcile this. I think being disturbed is what you feel and is right. I don't think there's a way to be fully at peace with this. And I think what you do need to look at, so you have all of your thoughts, but it's like, okay, now what am I going to do? It's in my face, but how am I going to then treat people? It's interesting that you said in AA you are able to allow people to be who they are, and your best friend is gay. Have you ever talked to your best friend about this? How it's hard for you, that it's so in your face? Because it's one thing to have people choose their own lifestyle. It's another thing to feel like, it's just we're bombarded with it, right? We certainly don't have heterosexual Pride Month. Right. And so, so it's like, okay, so you're one person, but we change things one person at a time, as cliche as that sounds. And so kind of, Jim, what you were saying, how do we lean in? How do we help people? You start praying for these people. Maybe you're walking down the street and you strike up a conversation with them. And you lean in, like you said, Jim, with love.
Yeah.
Maybe at your church during this month, you create a more wholesome alternative to the library story time. And you read stories to kids. And you hand out flyers at the library and say, we're having story time over here. And you share stories from the Bible. Right? Come up with creative things that you can do that add the good back in, and instead of just being so horrified that you have to run and hide.
Right. And I love the idea of, creating alternatives. We were at the break, we were saying this. I write books on this stuff for even kids. So one of the things that's so interesting is if I was in a room and I asked parents, how many of you received good, positive, value-centered sex education from their parents? Most of the people would not raise their hand, very few. However, Gene, the more positive, value-centered sex education kids receive from their parents, the less promiscuous they'll be. And listen to this, the less confused. So a lot of times what we want to do, and this is something for you to shout at the rooftops in a positive way, is that if we will be the dominant force, we're then the safe people to talk about this issue. And it'll help kids. It'll help lots of kids. It'll help thousands of kids. I said to a young person not too long ago, if you were at an art museum and somebody had painted this incredible picture and all of your buddies are around and they're telling you what it meant, or if the master designer came in and told you why they painted the picture, who would you listen to? And they said, well, I'd listen to the master designer. I said, well, God's the master designer when it comes to, our sexuality, and he is pretty clear. So are we going to listen to the voice of culture? We're going to listen to the voice of authority, which is God's word. So, we have to be excited about this, and we have to be able to show that alternative. And it's too bad we're calling our view the alternative, but it is God's view.
Yes, we're becoming the minority for sure. And I always think it's interesting that they call it Pride Month, right? Because the idea that pride cometh before the fall. So they're prospering now, but it's only for a season.
Well, I liked your answer here. I like both of your answers, but I liked your answer about a call to action here, Jill, and it reminds me of the saying, it's better to light a candle than it is to curse the darkness. And
yes.
And, Jesus, he did preach to thousands, but he also had those personal connections. And while this is a loud voice in our culture, we are the closest voices to our kids. So even though this is a big message coming at them, we have impact with our kids. And so don't underestimate the power that you may have, Gene, and other parents who are listening out there, to keep having those intentional conversations with your kids. Because you're close to them and they listen to you. And we're going to send you Every Woman's Bible here, Gene. It was helped to be edited, I believe, by Misty Arterburn here. So we hope you enjoy that. We're going to keep going with our calls here. We're going to speak to Glenn from Louisville, Kentucky. Glenn, you listen on Sirius XM, another great way to listen to us. How can we help you today?
Yes, so it was in a 5-year.
Are you there, Glenn? I think we're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. It's choppy.
I'm sorry. So I was in a 5-year relationship with a girl. She's been through an abusive relationships and abusive family, you name it. It's been done to her by mama's boyfriends, by her uncle, all of her exes. And
Okay, we lost you again, Glenn. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so 5-year relationship that just ended with a girlfriend who was in multiple abusive relationships.
And
her family.
Yep, we lost you again. Perhaps you give us your question here, Glenn, just in case we lose you, and then we can have an answer. Or start thinking about an answer.
Someone who's been abused, whose family tells them they deserve to be abused, and they're in an abusive relationship now, and her family's telling her that's what she...
Okay, so I'm going to say our question again, I think, for the listeners, just to clarify. So how do you help somebody who's in an abusive relationship and her family gives her those messages that she deserves to be abused and they have been abusers too? Jill, what would you say?
So I'm guessing then you still have input in this person's life. When someone has had such a history of abuse, and that's what they attract, and it's familiar to them. So it's very confusing when you're not someone that's come from abuse and you're saying, here, I'm offering you something different and better, why they would continue to choose that. But it's that familiarity that draws us back into those types of relationships. And you're right, the messages that she got and really what she feels like she deserves. And to have something better, she may not feel worthy of that. So in helping her, she's got to be able to have different voices that give her a different message and to be able to bring her shame into relationship. So again, that's where finding a good therapist and being willing to sit with somebody and share her story. You can probably not be the person that's going to free her from all of this, but you could be the one that encourages her to get help for her childhood, for her upbringing. And if there's times when she admits that, yes, this is terrible, right? That she doesn't like this, or that she's scared or lonely, or those are the times to say, well, let's do something different. You know, would you be willing to go get some help? And you can be a catalyst for that, even maybe help support that.
That's good. What would you say, Jim?
I have 4 quick points because I know the music's going to come on in a moment. I want to say very quickly, it's not her fault. It's the fault of the abusers, and she has to understand that. I would then say, for her to get whole, she has to seek help, not suffer in silence. And so she needs what Jill was saying. Thirdly, is she's going to have to understand that there's hope. People who've been abused who get help, there's still a scar, but it's something that turns into beauty. They can get help, and then also God cares deeply. And even the shortest Bible verse ever, Jesus wept. I think Jesus weeps at her abusive situation. And if she can identify with that, it's not easy, but her life is going to be in a better place. But she needs that seeking help. Don't suffer in silence.
That's good. Yeah, and if you are struggling in the same way that Glenn's girlfriend is struggling, you've been a victim of abuse, give us a call, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have resources to help.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family, or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step towards genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Well, welcome back to New Life Live. My name is Marc Cameron. And I want to let our listeners know that we have many intensives coming up. I talked about the Every Man's Battle coming up June 28th in Orange County, California. But we also have Restore, which is designed for women who have been victims of sexual betrayal. And that's going to be July 12th to the 14th in Dallas, Texas. And then we have Intimacy in Marriage, which is our intensive to help strengthen marriages. That's July 26th. Washington, D.C., Emotional Freedom online September 28th, and then we have a Life Recovery Conference online October 5th. Now, we're still taking calls for the remainder of this hour, and we're taking calls for the next hour, so 1-800-229-3000. You have time to still join us and get your question answered by us. Right now, we're going to go to Alexandra. Alexandra is from Eastern Pennsylvania. She listens on WBYN. Alexandra, how can we help you today?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. My question is that I inherited some money from my dad, and I am unwilling, for many reasons, to share this information with my husband of 43 years.
And why are you hesitant here, Alexandra?
I am hesitant because I believe that as a family for years we have misappropriated our funds because of lack of wisdom. I feel like this terrible legacy is also permeating into our three sons. My husband had an issue with taxes, and he chose to take the route of, those companies that say, here, we'll help you pay us and we'll help you ignore the problem. And it just gnaws at me day and night that was the choice that he made. Mm-hmm. And I on and off feel guilty about this. And I through the years, don't get me wrong, I wasn't following the Lord in terms of what to do with money that I earned. I am at this very late age in life learning that everything I have belongs to Him, everything. Mm-hmm. My talents, my time, my energy, everything. And I am so grateful that God has shown me that. But the person that's holding the money says to me, if I give it to you, they're going to put it in the bank and the tax people will take it. And everything that mom and dad earned would have been so that your husband, who won't pay what he's got to pay, is covered for him. How is that right, Alexandra? So I don't know exactly what to do. I pray about it every day.
Yeah, okay. Jill, what do you think?
Oh, gosh. Alexandra, this is a hard one. Inheritance, typically, it is not community property, so it is solely yours. As people, we all have a right to privacy. We're not mandated to disclose everything. That being said, this is your husband, and having secrets is problematic, and as you can tell, it's eating at you. But I think the bigger issue is really how you all have handled money. And where are the two of you at in discussing how money is handled? And I'm just hearing resentment on your part. And yet at the same time, you're saying, well, you didn't always handle money that well either.
Correct.
So there's resentment, and there needs to be discussion and change and forgiveness. And what does all that look like?
Well, I've presented myself to the Lord on behalf of what I've done wrong. I've asked him to forgive me. I've opened myself up to my husband and said, look, this is my checkbook, and this is what I have, and this is what I don't have, etc. My husband has never been stingy with his earnings. The problem is or the issue is that I really believe he never wants to do what's right with it. He's worked so very hard, and we literally don't have a penny to retire on, literally, and that we've lost 2 homes. And I don't know, he blames me for part of it, and I've accepted that because I used to say, no, that's not true. I've accepted, I've asked the Lord, show me where it was my fault, and I believe that God has shown me I should have been more open with him in terms of what he wanted. There's a lot with that. He was really ill for a long time, and I felt that we needed to sell our home, because I saw that we couldn't afford it. I didn't want to ask my dad when he was alive to help us. Because what's the point of getting help if the person isn't getting better? He did get better, but 5 years and 8 years too late he got better. I didn't want to be pushed out of the house, like by some crazy sheriff who says, get out. I can't do that. So I short-sailed it. He knew about it. He was very well aware of it. He said, but, he still blames me for that. And I said, all right, Lord, he wants to blame me, no problem. I believe that I was trying to use wisdom then by doing that, But, today in the very, corners of my heart, it's like I'm always wondering, what are you doing with your money? He's still working. He's working under the table now, Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Well, pay taxes.
Alexandra, let's hear from Jim because we've only got a few minutes left of the show here.
Alexandra, let me get one thing straight. If the money came into your account, are you telling me that it would be taken away because of the back taxes and things?
That would be true.
Yeah.
I specifically asked the person that was handling my husband's legal, aspects of this whole thing. Yeah.
Right. And was that an attorney?
Yes.
Yeah. And did the attorney have any other ideas? It's your money. Could you have put it into a retirement fund?
I didn't even ask her.
Yeah.
I just shut the door and I said, you know what? I am done with this whole thing that way.
Well, it sounds like... Oh, go ahead.
When I spoke to her, I said, I don't understand how you could represent my husband. He gives you all this money every month. You are well aware of the fact that he can pay it, and yet you can't even tell him pay it. Instead, you tell him, oh, forget about it. Just live your life. This is called live your life, and just don't show anything in your bank accounts, like that you got a house, that you got an inheritance, that you got just don't show that.
Yeah, well, the Bible's pretty clear when the Bible says, the man or woman of integrity walks securely, and so you want to be the person of integrity. I wouldn't go to that attorney. My suggestion is to go to another attorney, your attorney, find one, and get their wisdom on this. Maybe an estate attorney who could help you think through that. Because it is your money. It was given to you. It was not given to you and your husband. It was not given to your husband. And when you said you don't have any retirement or whatever, you might have you have a choice in how you're going to spend that. If, again, because you want to do it with integrity, you're going to have to hear from somebody that knows what they're talking about. And I think you're asking all the right questions, and those are the God-honoring questions. You're praying, you're doing all the right things. Now, get good wisdom. And the wisdom is not going to come from that attorney. That attorney doesn't seem to have the integrity that you're looking for. Find somebody else.
And probably a Christian. Find someone
there's plenty of people
who's
in
a Christian would look at it from that
yeah.
worldview as well.
Well, and let's see if we can connect you with a counselor here, Alexandra, because the money issue, that's the symptom, right? Really what's underneath this is being able for you and your husband to be able to connect on an intimate level, to be able to have clear and clarifying conversations with each other and hear each other's point of view. I think the book, How We Love, will help you learn how to do the comfort circle. But thanks for calling. Thanks to all of our listeners today. We'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE, but when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.